And due north of Indiana is where we find Michigan. Abortion rights are also center stage in that state's midterm elections. This week, Tudor Dixon, who won the Republican primary in the Michigan race for governor, has been endorsed by the state's largest anti-abortion organization. She's going to be facing incumbent Gretchen Whitmer, who has used her executive authority to protect abortion rights after Roe was in fact overturned. One person who knows quite a bit about Michigan politics and just how gnarly they can get is State Senator Mallory McMorrow. Her speech went viral earlier this year after her Republican colleague accused her of grooming and sexualizing children. She said, hate only wins when people like her stand by and let it happen. Take a listen.
Because I am the biggest threat to your hollow, hateful scheme. I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom. I want my daughter to know that she is loved, supported, and seen for whoever she becomes. I want every child in this state to feel seen, heard, and supported, not marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian.
And Senator McMorrow is joining me now. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. We appreciate it. I think one of the big questions that a lot of us have as we watched what took place in Kansas was, are folks going to turn out like that for a candidate that supports abortion rights versus just the issue of abortion rights? And so I'm wondering, as we take a look at your state, for instance, right, and the governor's race specifically, if you think, for instance, what took place in Kansas, right, what was on the ballot there, could translate to votes in the governor's race for incumbent Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate the question, because nobody has been a bigger champion on this issue in an aggressive way in a marginal state than Gretchen Whitmer, who has filed a lawsuit against the state to compel our state Supreme Court to determine whether or not abortion is protected here in Michigan. And on the other side, Tudor Dixon, the Republican nominee, is one of the most extreme on this issue, where she has said that there is no exception for rape or incest. And when poised with the question of a 14-year-old incest victim, she said, of course she should carry that baby. This is extremism. We're already seeing the fallout in neighboring Indiana. And what happened in Kansas is going to happen here in Michigan. We also have a ballot initiative running that would grant access within our state supreme, within our state constitution. And that is what voters are looking at. It's the candidate, it's the issue. We are going at it on all fronts in Michigan, and I know that voters are going to turn out.
So you mentioned, obviously, your state Supreme Court. And I think one of the issues that we're looking at across the country is a lot of women specifically are confused about what the rules and laws are in their specific state, right? We know, for instance, in your own state Supreme Court, they blocked this enforcement of a 1931 abortion ban. What are the results of kind of this confusion across the board after the overturn of Roe that you're seeing play out in Michigan?
I do think there's confusion, but more than anything, there's clarity around the reality here in Michigan. The reality is that we have a 1931 law on the books that makes abortion a felony with no exception for age, rape, or incest. And yes, the courts have put a stay on that enforcement. But at the end of the day, our fundamental rights are hanging by a thread right now. And when I talk to constituents, they are painfully aware of this reality right now. I talked to a woman who is concerned about having another ectopic pregnancy. She's already survived one. I talked to another who is older and has a high-risk pregnancy. I know somebody who's having twins. And there was a Google form circulating within my community of OBs who will tie your tubes, no questions asked, because women are terrified of what happens if this 1931 law goes into effect.
You talk about Tudor Dixon, who essentially said bringing children to drag shows criminal sexual abuse. I want to read for you a tweet that she put out there. As governor, I will sign a bill that creates severe criminal penalties for adults who involve children in drag shows. This type of behavior is criminal child sexually abusive activity. We will make Michigan the toughest state in the country on child sex abusers. You are no stranger to the efforts by a lot of Republican lawmakers to weaponize some of these social issues. How do Democrats effectively fight back?
We have to do exactly what I did a few months ago, is just show how ridiculous it is. And I'm glad you brought up this example, because this was our last long session day in Michigan, where we were there for 15 hours, like our federal colleagues are right now, to pass the $79 billion state budget. And I took a recess. I went out to the front Capitol steps, and Tudor Dixon was holding a press conference, and it said on a placard, "Tudor Dixon will protect your children." And I had wanted her to announce something related to gun violence or underfunding of schools or water quality. And instead, she talked about wanting to introduce legislation that would allow parents to sue a school if there was a drag show at that school, not being able to cite a single example of when that has ever happened. So here we are trying to pass a budget for 10 million residents of the state, and she's just introducing nonsense. It's just nonsense, and it's a distraction that Democrats have to point out loudly and to say very clearly, it was that dichotomy of, we're trying to fix the economy to get Michiganders back to work, to come out of the pandemic, and you're making up garbage issues.
State Senator Mallory McMorrow of Michigan, thank you so much. Good to talk to you.
Thanks.